Like the Real Housewives of Max Verstappen up in here.
Checo's checked out.
Joe is off the track. That steak is cooked.
I gotta say, a lot is at stake for Steak F1.
Man, even the broadcast couldn't handle that stat.
My heart almost was screaming like, how can anybody be a Lewis Hamilton fan?
No.
Not on my 2024 bingo card.
Yeah, we're gonna have to create a new one now.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Lights Out Latest. My name is Marina, and I'm here with Jason, Steven, and Tristan. Today we're going to talk all things Abu Dhabi. I want to start by apologizing. This is a little late. We had some weekend trips this week with Jason going to Indiana, myself going to New York. So, anyways, with that said, let's start with our headlines. Esteban Ocon replaced at Alpine for just this final race with Jack Doohan. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, that was short-lived.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, really.
Why even? I mean, all right, sure, throw him in for the last race, but like to the point where at first I took it like, oh, it was Ocon's decision to leave. It wasn't. He did a whole post where he's like, hey, the original plan was I do the race and I come back to the factory. I individually say goodbye to every single person. You know, this is emotionally terrible. I'm sure I'll see you around the paddock.
Yeah,
Even had a custom helmet made, didn't he?
He did.
Nah, did
he? He did. He had a custom
sure.
helmet. He had like pictures of like the team and their moments.
Before?
I don't know. I feel like it's definitely happened in the season. I don't know that it's ever happened for like the final race.
Yeah,
it's just one race left.
Yeah, the final
left.
race.
I think that, like I said, I think last week for sure we all thought it was kind of his decision. That's how Ollie Oakes made it seem in his post-race interviews.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely seemed more like a team decision than it was an Ocon decision looking at everything that he posted. On the other hand, though, do you guys remember what he posted after the Monaco crash? And everybody was like, what the hell is this dude posting?
I remember
Not to say I don't trust Esteban Ocon, I just think that just because he wanted to go to the factory and say goodbye and was intending to race this last race doesn't mean that it wasn't like an ultimatum situation where it was like, if you want to go do the postseason test for Haas, that's fine, but you're not racing in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And he decided to do that. I wouldn't be surprised if that was still the case. So that's the only like little like thinking about the other side of that for Alpine as well. But for me, it was just kind of sad that like there was like the goodbyes aspect. We had so many goodbyes this weekend. He just didn't have that. Again, he's not leaving the sport. He's just leaving the team. So I'm sure he'll see people,
That's the
paddock
reason.
Personnel.
You're right about that.
But like factory-wise, he's probably not going to see those people in the factory for, I would say some people not ever, some people for quite some time. So,
Like because Mercedes said the same thing to Lewis, which is why Lewis isn't testing now. Right?
Correct.
Because he wanted to
I don't know if
do the last
Lewis's
race.
was an ultimatum, as in like you're not racing the last race, because it's Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion. But they did make it very clear to him very early that he was not going to be doing a postseason test for Ferrari.
I wonder how Pierre feels about it with the Esteban situation. Because, like, do you think that makes him a little uneasy in his seat? He's like, oh, they will just put the boot to me at any second.
I don't
Maybe.
think
like,
so.
Not as much, but
It's hard to say,
so,
but I
because
think
I think there's so much beef there that I don't think there's any sympathy.
I think that is the least trustworthy team, though, on the grid.
Oh, I think so. It's between them and Red Bull.
I was gonna say.
Unless you're Sergio Perez.
Red Bull's just got so many eggs in the basket. It's not that it's not their fault, but they have like
They have people lined up.
They got more than I know what
ways.
to do with.
That's my thing with Alpine is that fine, replace Esteban Ocon if you had. Not to say this is not me saying Jack Doohan is not a quality driver, but replace him with somebody with quality, because this is his first race. There was literally there was very few benefits, in my opinion, to getting it out of the way now, because he's still going to have the same nerves in the first race of the season as he is now, because it didn't count for anything. This race meant absolutely nothing.
He's not
going to
touch that racetrack, Abu Dhabi, until literally this time next year.
Yeah.
Or that car.
Obviously,
that
that's
Or
not
that
the
car
whole
till
point.
3 months from now.
Yeah.
I think it was important for him to kind of learn the steering wheel and stuff like that. He was talking about on the post-race show on F1 TV how, like, by the end of the race, he had to concentrate so much just to click a button because his thumb was so tired.
Yep.
So there's little things that maybe, okay, fine, you do this one race and it shows you kind of what you still need to work on training-wise for physicality, steering wheel, but also he is the reserve. So in terms of, like, things you have to press on the buttons and stuff like that, the steering wheel is the same on a sim as it is in the car.
True. It's probably also just a mental thing, just to get that mental
Get it
barrier
out of the way.
Yes, but it's so like, but it's also like, I don't know, if you were to take me, let's say I was like an MLB player and you put me in for like, I don't know, I just got brought up We're like, end of the season, we're gonna put you in for a game, and well, now the off season's here, so now I gotta wait 4 months for the next game. It doesn't matter. Like it's like now, obviously baseball is a weird example because baseball's all about consistency. You gotta keep playing to stay in your groove.
Yeah.
Racing's kind of the same thing. It's similar.
I think the thing with racing is you have to build confidence. It was important for him to finish that race, but finishing in 15th wasn't exactly with your teammate finishing in the points wasn't exactly the way to build that confidence, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But what got me was the fact that when they take the 2024 picture with all the drivers, was the fact that they put Jack Doohan in the picture and not Esteban Ocon. When Esteban Ocon raced 23 out of the 24.
Actually?
Yeah.
So,
oh, man,
and like I know Esteban was at the drivers' dinner, and he's doing the test for Haas. So it's not even like you could say, oh, he's not even there.
Yeah.
He was there. He was at the track. He's on the track one of the days. I don't know if he was there that day particularly, but he was at the track one of the days. And so it's like he was in Dubai. He was in Abu Dhabi. He could have easily taken that picture. You could have put all three of them in there. Because that's the only situation in particular. Obviously, you've had driver changes this year, but that was the only situation where one driver raced 23 out of the 24 of the races, and then you just take the 2024 driver photo and don't put him in there.
I've seen the
like,
picture now. It's so sad.
That's
right?
that's like
crazy.
Alpine's last slap in the face right
Well,
there.
I don't think Ocon was there at all, so it probably didn't matter. But
He might have left already.
Yeah.
He'd be on the next photo. He'll be on the next.
It would have been really funny if he was
maybe.
in like a Haas race suit or something like that.
Or wearing like a Haas hat.
Yeah.
Or something, you know?
Yeah.
All right, moving on. One thing before we kind of officially move into this weekend, I wanted to shout something out because something that I haven't heard a single person talk about, but I went back, I saw this stat online, went back, counted through, made sure this was correct. Last weekend, Max achieved 63 victories since his debut with Red Bull in 2016. Lewis has 62 victories since Max's debut in Red Bull in 2016.
Yeah, I mean,
So, dominant driver. But also, think about the car that Lewis has had since 2016 versus the car Max has had since 2016. Like, Lewis has had many more dominant seasons than Max has.
Yeah.
So, just a little...
Just your little,
Saying.
just your little.
16,
My little
17,
Max didn't have a good race,
18.
so...
I was gonna say just your little Lewis
20.
hate for the day.
So it's 5 seasons for Lewis and dominant car. 2021
3
like equal.
Equal. 3 for Max.
And
Not
then
even 3 for Max.
Max. So
2.
3.
He
and
had 2
4.
true dominant
And 4
seasons.
wasn't that
24
dominant.
was very iffy. He had
Wow.
not... So that's what I'm saying. So,
Well, how
I
many
think
races were in the schedule in 2016?
You see, if I'm playing,
it's less races for sure.
Yeah.
if I'm,
But if you combine this amount of
even
seasons...
percentage, yeah.
Percentage-wise, Max has won more races with a dominant car than
I
Lewis
mean,
has.
Right.
the only other comparison I would say is what about Perez? Because Lewis always had a competitive teammate.
Oh my God,
no,
yeah.
That is
I don't
true.
know.
That is
I
true.
don't know.
And you said this is your like Lewis hate for the day. It's not me hating on Lewis. I just thought it was really
No,
interesting.
yeah.
Because of course, Lewis is going to have many more victories than Max, but he's also been in the sport since what 2007.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's been
now
a
you
while.
know
Max
I'm a
has
Lewis
been
fan
since
because he's gonna be wearing red
2015.
real
So,
soon.
oh, my grandma said that she's only allowed to wear her Lewis Mercedes shirt till New Year's. And then on New Year's, from January 1st onwards, she's a Ferrari fan. She will no
There
longer
you
be
go.
wearing
I
that
wonder
shirt.
where the statute of limitations goes when they can start releasing merchandise.
Probably New
I want to
Year's.
say it's New Year's.
That's
But
so
they're probably gonna wait
crazy.
until car launches.
Because I know
right?
I think they
Ferrari's
will.
like probably kicking themselves. They wish they could be selling holiday merch right now. Because
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
under the Christmas tree, you know, you get a Lewis Hamilton Ferrari
Absolutely.
shirt.
Oh, the
I know that's what
Etsy
Jason's
sales
asking
are
for.
through the roof.
Oh man.
honestly.
The
Yeah.
Etsy like
Hamilton stuff. Oh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
insane. There's
Oh.
so much stuff
I
already.
believe it. And they're probably cashing out right now while they
Yeah.
can.
Show.
Until they get copyright strikes. Like, right.
All right, Friday Stepkin then.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Speaking of last weekend, moving into media day for this weekend. The George and Max beef was so beefing. I was
my God.
Oh,
so
that beef
heavily
was beefing.
entertained. Even Lando was like, "Man, I don't really care if this gets resolved. I'm enjoying the arguing. It's
Grab your
really
popcorn,
entertaining."
folks. Things are getting crazy.
And
Yeah.
Norris
Who was
on
the
his
one?
Instagram
Yeah, that
like,
was-
know
yeah.
who isn't together.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's like
Yep.
yeah, just for everybody who's thinking about those two drivers, they're definitely not
For
sitting
the
next to each other.
driver's dinner. Yeah.
So here's the tea, right? So Max and George were both the two or three of the last drivers to arrive at the dinner. Max, there were 3 seats. They were all next to each other. Max sits down. George comes in. There's 2 seats, both next to Max. He grabs the chair, moves it to Lewis's side, and sits next to Lewis.
It's awesome.
Max's comment of like, he literally explains the situation because all the drivers have commented on this as well, but he explained, he's like, yeah, I was sitting there and I was expecting him to come in and like, let's bury the hatchet, sit next to each other or whatever, and he just grabbed the chair. He's like, I'm not sitting here. Grabbed the chair and moved it over there. I was like,
oh my god,
that's awesome.
So I want to read out what George said. It's quite a lengthy comment, but I'll read it out because I think it's really funny. It's also extremely hypocritical and not to the point. Anyways, he goes, I find it quite ironic seeing as Saturday night he said he was going to purposely go out of his way to crash into me and put my fucking head in the wall, pardon my French. For me, these comments on Saturday night and Sunday were totally disrespectful and totally unnecessary. But we've got a guy who's on top of the sport who feels he's above the law, and I don't think that's right. So it's not me trying to assert my leadership style or anything. It's just somebody has come out and said that I'm a two-faced motherfucker, and he's entitled to his own opinions. But coming out and saying that publicly and slamming me publicly, I'm just not going to accept it, and I'm not going to tell people, and I'm going to tell people what the reality is. And then Max asked if he read it. He says, no, I meant every word. I've never experienced anything like that from the stewards. I found his behavior really unacceptable.
Hall Monitor George strikes again.
Hall Monitor George also mentioned in other interviews, Abu Dhabi 2021, he mentioned Esteban Ocon, the Esteban Ocon stuff in 2018. So I don't know, man. This beef was a little too much. Like, it was a lot.
It's a little petty.
Yeah.
It is very petty. I think the problem for me is that George, not only does George not have a leg to stand on, but Max was talking exclusively about what happened in that instance, in that steward room, didn't bring up anything else that's ever happened with George or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was purely like, I found this disrespectful.
George's
That's what he said.
Worst aggression. Was it slapping Bottas on the helmet?
Probably.
When they crashed in Imola?
Yeah, I think
that
so.
That was really funny. I liked it.
So there was that, but then, like, I just don't get why this is still a thing because George has zero leg to stand on. That penalty was the most stupid thing I've ever seen in my life, and every single driver and team principal other than Toto Wolff and George Russell has agreed with that statement.
Right.
So I just don't get why this is still a thing. Like, why are we still talking about this?
Hey, I'd rather be a terrier than a wolf.
Oh my god, dude, it was so funny. But what ended the conversation completely, which I was so funny. This is like the memes that have gone out about this. It's like all this beef, yada yada yada, Friday. Or Thursday, and then it's Friday morning. It's like, oh, also, by the way, I'm pregnant. My girlfriend's pregnant. Max is like, so kind of like, can we just like shut up about this? You're too petty about this stuff. I'm
getting too old for this, George.
I'm getting too old for this drama. I'm having a baby.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Max, I mean, just do the Tom Brady thing. Just go, look at the rings, man. Look at the rings.
Exactly. First of all, as someone who's a Max fan, as someone who is a Brazilian, very much like Kelly Piquet, I literally screamed at 4 a.m. when I woke up to watch FP1 and saw this. I was so excited.
It's exciting
I am so excited. But I've seen so many people talk about like such an interesting time to release it or whatever. I'm pretty sure this is a scheduled post. Like, this is something that they wanted. He talked about it. He said, we just wanted to announce it before the season was over. When else are they going to do it? Sunday? Like, risk Max, God forbid, having like a DNF on Sunday and then announcing it right after on like a road. Like,
hey, you're going to be a dad.
Yeah.
But clearly it was more planned than we thought because obviously they had a collaborative post on Instagram.
Exactly.
So, like, there was planning involved.
Yeah. I think, there's a couple things. Firstly, from the Kelly Piquet posted some stuff on her story. And the kind of the way it was written, I really think they've been trying for a long time. So I definitely think there's an aspect of that too, is like finally
to have a child or to post it.
To have a child.
To post it, yes.
I don't know. Where's the fun?
No, I do think they've been trying to have a kid. Because think about
Max doesn't use Instagram.
Yeah. Well, because think about it, because Max is 27, but she's 36.
Wow, there's like a 10, 11-year gap there.
27 and 36, 9 years. Anyways, so it's not to like, this is not factual. This is something that like, I mean, it's partially factual. It's not something that she has come out and said, but by the way she was talking about like, if this like hurts anyone to see other people pregnant, kind of seemed like she's seen pregnancy announcements where she's trying to get pregnant and kind of like, it's been tough.
Yeah.
But also, like, the older you get as a woman, the harder it is to get pregnant. Right. So I do think that it's been a while. There's some interviews with Max that kind of seemed like they were also, like, considering it already. So Yeah.
Question is, what's the name gonna be? Well, I guess we don't know what the gender yet, do we?
The amount of people that have said if this baby is a boy, it's gonna be Ayrton Verstappen Piqué or Piqué Verstappen is insane.
Oh man,
insane. That would be legendary.
That would be cool.
Would be Min.
Min,
as in minimum Verstappen. So you have Max.
I was gonna say maximum.
Maximus.
We all know it won't be Yoss.
Have you seen the memes about 2046 Max Verstappen Jr. versus Fernando Alonso?
Yeah,
I think I have seen that. Yeah.
Which is just hilarious.
And
to
Robin
me.
Raikkonen.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. He's actually really good though. I've been seeing some
he's
stuff
been
about
doing good
him.
in karting.
He's
He's
been doing
doing
good in karting.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
like
exciting.
One of the comments. I'm just looking at the post now on Instagram. One of the comments that isn't it's full of the drivers congratulating stuff like that. Is the only normal person I can see. It's in the top 10. Just says what? And then the next comment below is literally me, girl.
Who?
Sorry,
but yeah,
I was off topic.
No, you're good. That's fine.
Man.
I don't know. This is very interesting. I think I was really shocked by the amount of people that kept being like, "Oh, Max is going to retire." It doesn't make sense for him to retire now. And I'm not saying that baby years aren't important. Yeah. But when he's talking about, if you go back and really watch his interviews, when he's talking about, I want to see my, nephews grow up and my kids grow up, I think he's more talking about him having a presence, of them knowing he's there, and they don't remember stuff. We don't remember stuff till we're at 4.
Yeah.
So
like that, yep.
I think he is going to stay the length of his contract till 2028.
Yeah. That's the thing, though. I don't think it's going to go past that.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think was interesting, and we'll kind of get into this when we get to the race, was the penalty point stuff, where he's 8 out of 12, and they don't kind of go away until kind of the end of the season of next season. So he's like, yeah, maybe I'll just do it strategically so I get paternity leave when the baby comes.
There you go.
So he just crashes on purpose to get the penalty points and then takes paternity leave.
Oh,
that would be wild.
Which,
he would love that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he'd still be accused of it too. He would crash, completely losing the car or something.
It does run in the family, right?
Yeah.
Crashing intentionally.
Yeah, it does. It does, unfortunately.
Oh boy.
Nelson Piquet Jr. is, I don't know, man.
It runs in the family. That's it.
So,
it does.
Anyways. I think, is that all that? Oh, then let's go into the weekend now. Kind of last bit of news-ish before we truly move in to quali and the rest of the weekend. FP1 and its abundance of junior drivers was heavily entertaining. We talked about it last week. What is the leaderboard going to say with Arthur and Charles? LEC and LEL.
We got our answer, folks.
We got our answer.
So strange.
I thought it was going to be ALE. I thought it was going to be ALE.
That sounds even better. I really thought it was going to be a letter. Well, I know their way Formula 1 does is the 3 letters. But I really think the most makes sense thing was the letter for the first name and then look.
We got Lek and Lel.
Yeah. Lek and Lel. I don't know. I think, honestly, the only thing, it just kind of looks like they skipped the C. Because Leclerc is LECL, so they just skipped the C and put LEL. Mm-hmm. Fine. I think the thing is, they see this as such a minimal problem, because I don't think Arthur is ever going to make it to F1. I hate to break it, to anybody who's really hoping that's going to happen. I really don't think he's ever going to make it to F1, and so it's it's whatever. This is a one-time thing or a two-time thing.
There might be some money behind him or some sponsors that want to see him and his brother race, so he might end up at a Haas kind of position.
Yeah.
Could be another.
He'll never get that Ferrari seat.
No,
There's
absolutely
no way.
never.
Is he even close to winning Formula 3, 2?
No.
He hasn't won either of them.
No. And the thing is, he is so far behind. And obviously, Charles touched on this a little bit when he was asked about it in interviews, because their dad could only afford to put one of them through karting. And so Arthur stopped karting for, I want to say it was 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
To let Charles continue until Charles was well in through, I want to say he was in F2 at this point, or even all the way up to F1 when Arthur continued his karting and his motorsports journey. So it's tough to go out for 5 years or 6 years, I don't remember exactly what it was, and then come back in. Not only have you spent all this time not karting, but on top of that, everyone else moved on. You're the oldest in the group now.
Yeah.
And Formula One teams are looking, for lack of a better term, they're looking for the next Verstappen. They can bring in at 16, 17, 18 years old.
Yep.
In their junior categories, bring into F1 at 18, 19, and then carry through to a long career. Because we have 24 races in a season now. We might have 25, 26 in the future. You're going to need someone who's young that can last a while, ultimately, in my opinion. So
we also, unfortunately, though, live, and it's not so common in Formula One or motorsports in general, but like a last name gets you places. Also just nepotism in general.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, like we have
Austin Dillon.
There you go. Yeah, Silver
That's
Spoon. No, we have like, but there's also the
IndyCar is full of them.
Oh yeah. But
Because
there's
IndyCar is
Hey,
super
Colton
strong.
Herta.
Colton Herta,
No, but
absolutely,
Herta's
or
good.
Bobby
Like,
Rahal's
Herta's
son.
good.
No, he is. He
Or,
is.
And
Graham?
Lance
Graham
Stroll.
is funny. Yeah, Graham is the
Yeah.
Lance Stroll
Like,
of
It's true.
IndyCar.
Marco Andretti.
Marco,
Yeah.
at least he only runs the 500, so he's not.
Yeah,
taking
well, he
somebody's
used to
seat.
run the full season,
Yeah,
though,
but he's
and he
not
sucked.
taking somebody's seat. He's not taking
But
somebody's
I mean,
seat.
IndyCar is obviously a little bit compared to like.
Well, there's
Formula
also
One,
the
but-
huge conflict of interest thing at the top of the
Yeah.
level. So.
But, I mean, we have absolute dorks like Sergio Perez are still racing, but obviously
Yeah.
that's money talks, and that's what I was kind of saying
The
is like there
official
might be some
candy
money
bar
sometime
Formula
eventually.
One.
Oh yeah.
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 No, there is money. Money plays a big role, and I think it's part of the reason why. I think it's part of the reason why Gabriel Bortoleto was able to come in before Felipe Drugovich, and it's because he was able. I think he was able to get more sponsors than he was, and he was also a McLaren development driver. With Drugovich, never was. He was just kind of unaffiliated with an F1 team, for a long time. So I think that that's important. There's also just on that topic. There's just not money in Brazil right now.
Yeah.
The dollar is at like 6 something.
Wow.
So it's $1 is 6 reais, which is their currency. So it's like their money's not worth anything. And so even if you have a big sponsorship, a couple $1 million reais,
Yeah.
it's like what, maybe 500,000?
Yeah, it's a tough deal.
$400,000. So it's not. It's hard for them as Brazilian drivers to get that sponsorship.
Yeah.
But
By the way, I was just gonna say, did y'all hear about the whole thing with Valtteri Bottas and how he's gonna go to Audi, but then the whole thing changed?
I did not. Is this
Yeah, I think I saw it today. It was basically saying how, I guess before the leadership changed at Audi, Valtteri was almost promised to see it at Audi with the ownership, but then of course it
Was this
changed.
Option
Was
for
this-
Williams last year.
Was
Yeah.
this pre-Nico?
This was like today. Well, like this came
No.
out today.
But I mean, like, was this option pre-Nico Hulkenberg?
Before Nico got that.
Oh, I don't
seat.
know.
That's what I'm saying. I think Audi's plan was always to have an experienced driver and a new
Yeah.
driver they could
Yeah.
bring up. So I think once Nico Hulkenberg signed, I was never expecting someone else from the grid, unless it was a Franco Colapinto or
Yeah.
Ollie Bear. Ollie's already signed, but like someone that's like kind of experienced-ish to be in that seat.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's move into quali. Funniest part of the weekend, other than the Georgia Max beef, was Lewis getting taken out by a bollard.
Yeah, that was so
Unless you're a
unfortunate,
Mercedes
man.
fan. But for me, it was quite entertaining. I was watching on the
K
flight.
Mac tried so hard to do the right thing, and then just like a banana peel, just sent out the bullard
It's
onto
like
the
Mario
track.
Kart.
In K-Mac's defense, he didn't actually hit the bullard. Someone else hit it.
Really?
Yeah, someone else hit it, loosened it. It was over on the side. Like, they hit it in, so it was over on the side, and K-Mag tried to get out of Lewis's way and touched it, and then it went over there. So in K-Mag,
Gotcha.
it wasn't really... I don't know. It's just so unnecessary.
I feel like
What's the point of the bollard in many of the corners, specifically that corner? Literally half a foot away is the wall.
True.
Like it got
Yeah.
stuck
It's
into his
impossible
car.
to have track limits there. So
Yeah.
what's the point of the bollard? Seriously,
Aesthetics.
aesthetics to take out Lewis Hamilton apparently.
Yes.
Apparently.
But he literally just ran over. And the thing is,
Yeah,
he
this
was
happened in 2021.
did it.
Yeah, Schumacher hit it, and the Norris punted it during qualifying.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's so unnecessary. It causes
F1
accidents
has
that are
a
unnecessary.
debris problem.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have a debris
Got
problem.
lizards on the track.
No,
in, like,
debris, not
Singapore.
debris.
I know that was supposed to be.
I was like, did you actually say that, or are you just making a joke?
Clever.
That's pretty
Level
good.
that pretty high.
Anyways, since nobody got my joke, yeah, that was unfortunate for Lewis, but I think it made for such a good race. We'll get into it later because I think you see Lewis Hamilton come alive when he has a car under him that can do something.
Yeah.
And then he's able to come from the back, or he qualifies well or poorly and then comes from the back, or even if he qualifies decently, like back of the top 10 or something in a Mercedes, and then he is able to fight for a win, that's when he's like at his best
the same
right now.
applies with bad strategy?
Maybe.
Yes, that's a win in my book.
Oh, I see why you asked that now.
Yes, yeah.
No, actually, I don't think strategy is Ferrari's problem right now. I think McLaren is Ferrari's problem right now. But we'll get into that when we talk
People got
championship.
so mad that Zach celebrated.
Why would they be mad Zach celebrated?
Because they're like, oh, isn't Andrea Stella does all the work and Zach just takes credit for it?
I'm mad with how Zach celebrated, but we'll get into that in the end.
I actually haven't really seen how McLaren is
Can we talk
celebrating.
about, too, how George Russell got in the way of Liam Lawson?
Oh, okay. Yes, please. I was going to do this when we talked kind of Q2 because I'm pretty sure this was Q2. But
I can't remember exactly, but yeah.
right. It is so hypocritical. So hypocritical for Max
so
to get a
funny.
one-place grid penalty for impeding George Russell on a slow lap. And then George not to get a penalty for impeding Liam Lawson on a fast lap.
Yeah.
He's got to throw the whole FIA away. He's just got.
Hey,
Just
George
throw George
is at the
Russell.
FA.
There's also that.
Nah, George is
Like,
paying him.
if you literally British bias
Yeah.
through the roof.
Though,
Yeah.
I mean, do you think he was really impeding him, though?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because he did make a valiant effort to get out of his way. And I don't know.
Here's the problem. He just proved his point. Like he went on the radio immediately after and said, if I had gone any further, I would have been off track limits. And he was starting a lap as Liam was finishing a lap.
Oh, that's valid.
So
Okay.
if he had gone any further, he would have been out of the track. And then his next lap, because if you go off on the last corner, your next lap gets deleted and the lap that you just did. So his point was, if I had truly gotten out of his way, I would have been fucked because I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to complete a lap. I
Right.
would have
Yeah.
been like, wherever I cross the line is where I cross the line.
Yeah.
However, to the point of that, why not just accelerate out of the last corner?
Yeah, it's true.
Just keep in front of him
Because that just makes too much
You're
sense.
in a Mercedes. you're in a Mercedes. He's in a V carb. You're gonna go faster.
Yeah, that's
You
a good
can
point.
keep in front of him
Yeah.
and the other thing is, and I don't think you can, a lot of like, if you looked at like the way they were communicating with George last weekend, and one of my biggest things of why the hell did Max get a penalty for this, because George knew he was there. George had every indication that he was there. So I don't think that it was a fault of Mercedes. I haven't listened to it, but I'm sure Mercedes told him you have Liam coming behind you on a fast lap.
You would
He
hope
could have
so, but this has
accelerated
happened
earlier.
before, though. It's
Yeah.
like, again, where the freaking dorks, all the engineers that are paying attention, or should be paying attention, should be telling him. Like, I haven't heard the audio. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody did say that, but there's a real chance that nobody did.
said it,
There's a
Spotters.
very real chance.
I love how you
Yeah,
guys
get the
always talk about
spotters going.
spotters.
If I had a hot take for Formula One, we got to get those spotters in there. Come on.
Yeah.
now.
You paid big money,
absolutely.
too.
Yipper.
But yeah. Let's also in Q2 Charles Leclerc out. This was tragic.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah, I
about
hate to see
you.
it.
I don't know about you, Jason, but when I saw Charles Leclerc out in Q2 plus the 10 race penalty, I thought, oh, it's over.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean, you thought that, then you saw lap one, and I was like, oh. we
Yeah.
got chance.
What a
And
lap-
then Leclerc kept climbing up the order. I thought we had a chance for a bit.
You had a chance. Pretty
had a
much.
chance till the
yeah,
end,
Yeah, till
pretty
the
much.
end.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All it took, and we know what can happen at the end of Abu Dhabi, so all it would have taken is a puncture, a stupid strategy call, or anything. A back marker that didn't move out the
A
way.
wing
and
mirror
got blue
falling
flag.
off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like so many things could have happened.
Literally.
Ultimately, it wasn't enough.
Yep.
Because all McLaren had to do was win that race, and they were done because of the points difference. But I think we can blame that one on Sergio Perez crashing into Carlos Sainz in Monaco. No, in Baku. Yes, in Baku. Completely unnecessarily. It was what, second to last lap? It was a restart or something, and Perez just took him out.
Got Perez. You had to see it.
Yeah.
You had to
he
finish on a
really
high note
staying for
by
next
staying
year?
consistent.
I know
Is
we're
he
gonna
staying
talk
for
about
next year?
a little
Let's-
bit more, but
We'll talk about next year a lot more next pod as we kind of
like, I wanna
review the
talk about
season and
Vesti.
move into the future. But I really think this is the end. I think that the tone changed over the last couple weekends of
Yeah.
Christian Horner saying we're behind him, of Perez himself saying, I'm confirmed, I have a contract for 2025, to saying, like, we'll see and stuff like that. I just, at this point, don't think the money's enough.
Yeah. Well, this is like the first time, I don't know if you all saw it, this is like the first time today I saw that Perez actually kind of acknowledged that he could be out.
Because he's trash.
Yeah.
He's horrible.
He's like, okay, fine.
You know how many points? Okay, can I? Let me say this.
Do some bebops.
Do you know how many points Perez scored in the last 16 races of this year?
I was just trying to figure this out because I was looking at the scoreboards.
Do you know how many points? 45 points in the last 16 races.
Wait.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that means basically he scored 100 points in the first I don't know, 8 races of the season.
Where when Red Bull still had the faster car.
Yeah. And then he has 152 to finish the season.
Yeah. So he scored in the last 16 Grand Prix. He scored 45.
If Aston Martin had just a little bit better pace, they probably could have beaten him. They were just Aston Martin sucked. I mean, objectively, they sucked.
The Drivers' Championship was a Red Bull sandwich. It was Max at the top, the rest of the top 4 teams in between them, and then Perez 100 points off Lewis and 100 points ahead of Fernando. Just completely in the middle of nowhere.
Maybe it's just a plot. Red Bull was doing a side quest. You're like, 1-2's fun, but have you ever gotten first and last? That's never been done before.
Okay, fun fact, the last Drivers' Champion to finish... to win the Drivers' Championship with a third or fastest car, or third in the Constructors or lower.
I think I know this stat.
Was Nelson Piquet.
Oh, wow.
Keeping it in the family, which I thought was really funny. I think that was 82.
What's the stat that was with, it was the last since Jos Verstappen? I forget what it was.
The last... the biggest gap between teammates and a world champion and his teammates since... Jos Verstappen.
Which he didn't even finish the season.
Well, Jos finished. All right,
Jos,
so
and wasn't that Jos's teammate with Schumacher?
Yes.
I think so.
In 94.
So him and Schumacher versus Perez and Verstappen, and Jos didn't even finish the season.
No.
Oh, it never ends.
Perez finished 8th.
Yeah, but Perez sucked, and the Astons were just a little bit worse.
And back didn't only the top 6 get points?
Yeah. I think so. Top 6 or top 8.
Yeah. I think it's funny that Perez didn't even sniff the top 5 after Italy. I'm looking at it all now. It's blowing my mind. I'm comparing him to Lance Stroll. Which is wild. Isn't that wild to say?
How many points? Oh wait, this is probably a long-term thing, or you could tell us next week.
Yeah.
How many points has Lance Stroll scored in the last 16 Grand Prix?
Oh, in the last 16?
That's a ChatGPT.
Oh no, I can do this
right
really
there.
easily.
Okay.
13.
13
He scored
in the last 16 races?
Yeah, because what would be the number? Monaco was race number 9, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It was 8. And then we're at race number 24.
Well, Perez didn't finish in Monaco, so that's probably the first.
Yeah, that's what I'm
races.
trying to figure out. Yeah. So it was 13 because he scored 6 in Canada, 6 in Great Britain, and 1 in Hungary.
That's it.
That's all Stroll got.
What about Fernando?
Fernando, I just had his up right here. He has a little bit better.
Probably not 45 though. Probably less because he didn't have that many for the season.
21, 25, and then there's Britain is 29 plus 8 in Monaco. It's 29 plus, or it's 37. So 37.
37 in an Aston Martin in the last 16.
See, but that's comparable.
45
in a Red Bull.
In a Red Bull.
Yeah.
That won the World Drivers' Championship. I know Max is good. Max is very good.
Mm-hmm.
But
this begs the question. Okay, listen. This is genuine. Now it's genuine.
Okay.
Are they driving the same car?
Yes.
I don't think so.
I can't. It's impossible.
I
could do better than Sergio Perez.
Here's the reason they're driving the same car.
Yeah.
Here's the reason, in my opinion, they're driving the same car. Granted, they're driving the same base car. Are they driving the same set of upgrades? I don't know.
No, because I feel like I remember seeing a picture in the beginning of the season or middle of the season. The AirPods were completely different.
That was an upgrade week.
That was an upgrade week?
They brought an upgrade to Max's car and not to Checo's yet because Checo crashed so much it was pointless to put an upgrade on his car.
Right. They're just going to ruin the upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. What was I going to say? Because the reason I say I think they are driving the same car is because Alex, that podcast interview that Alex Albon did, where he was talking about go on a simulator or go on the F1 game turn the sensitivity up to the max.
Yeah.
That's
the way Max.
That's
That's a car that Max is able to drive.
Yeah.
He just has an ability to keep it on the track. It's like his ability to drive in the wet.
Yep.
It's so fantastic. It's supposed to, like, people were saying, I hate to break it to Max. I saw this so many times on social media. I hate to break it to Max, but Charles Leclerc's drive from P19 to P3 in the dry tops Max's performance in the wet.
Wrong.
No, it doesn't.
Wrong on
It's
every
wrong.
front ever.
Wrong on every level.
Yeah.
Couldn't be more wrong.
On every level. The rain, winning in the rain by 20 seconds, starting at P17, is so much more impressive than P19 to P3, considering Perez fell a bunch, Max fell behind Charles with that crash, Oscar did too. So yeah, he gained 11 positions on lap 1, but he also had like 3 or 4 people just like die behind
It's
him.
more driver than car in the wet. Whereas, I mean, come on.
I think
If
it's a
you're in a
combination
Ferrari
of
and
the two.
you're starting back there and you can't get past the Sauber, that's your fault.
Okay,
Skill issue.
can we talk
Yeah.
about
You know what I
this?
mean?
Okay, let's
Oh,
move
boy.
in. Let's move into the race and talk about this. And you guys are not gonna like, or you guys, Steven is not gonna like this. Oscar Piastri dud ?
Yeah, you're
Dude
gonna have to
was
explain
stuck
this one.
behind Yuki Tsunoda for so long.
Yep.
Yuki Tsunoda in a V car.
But we all know
This
that
car
Yuki's
just won the
great at
Constructors
defending.
Championship.
Yuki is a good defender.
Yuki's
will-
decent. He's no Fernando Alonso
Yeah.
or
He
Max.
stopped Lewis at multiple occasions.
We could bring up Sergio Perez.
I
He's
like
the one that
Hamilton's a dud.
I
arguably
don't
gave Max a
think-
championship in
I don't think it's
2021.
a dud. Maybe this one race, sure, but over.
I think it's ridiculous
and
that
as a
he wasn't.
career?
No, he's had a great season. Okay, and this is like complete 180. I think.
I was gonna say, are you gonna say that Lando is better than him now?
No.
Oh.
Complete 180. I think Oscar. If I had to pick right now, who's winning the Drivers' Championship next year, I'd say Oscar.
Wow,
say
that's a
Lando.
dang.
I mean,
I'm saying
you know,
Leclerc.
You want to know
next
why?
year.
You want to know? I think I said
Oh,
this on
I'm
this
saying
pod.
Hamilton. I thought you meant like right now.
Right now, if
the
I had to
same
pick who's going to
lineup.
win next year,
Yeah.
That's a fair. Poll.
given new lineups and everything.
Oh,
The reason I think Oscar would take it over Lando is because Lando's too emotional. Mentally speaking, Oscar is much stronger than he is.
It's true.
Much stronger than he is. And I think natural talent, Oscar's also much stronger than Lando Norris. Lando just has a lot more experience.
Lando proved this weekend he can win the last race of the season, though.
He can win. I'm not saying he can't win. He won 4 races this year. He's a great
Oh, no.
driver.
I'm not
He
saying
is,
that.
He is capable of winning
Yeah.
a championship. However, if you are an equal machinery with Oscar Piastri, in my opinion, Oscar takes the cake.
Yeah, that's what I was
Especially in a 3rd season of Formula 1. He made such a big step from season 1 to season 2 and throughout this season.
Well,
I say Oscar.
we talked about it. I mean, you got a driver who doesn't care and is fast. I mean, that's a scary combination.
Right? It's Max Verstappen without the anger issues, in my opinion. The only thing that Max takes for sure over Oscar, obviously experience, but also his ability in the wet. I don't think Oscar has anywhere near that kind of ability in the wet.
Yeah, that's fair.
But wet races are what, 4 a year, maybe?
Yep.
Brazil, you're likely to have one. Canada, Spa,
Yeah,
Silverstone, ?
potentially.
Potentially. It really, like, a lot of the rest of our races are definitely dry because half of them are in the desert.
Yep.
We race in Qatar, we race in Bahrain, we race in Abu Dhabi, we race
Austin,
in Vegas.
Race number 1 is his home race,
Austin's-
baby.
Austin's a
Ish.
toss-up, but probably
Toss
more
up,
arid
but
than
probably
anything.
more, yeah, exactly. So, anyways, with that said, can we talk about the lap 1 incident between Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen? I'm a Max fan, so I'll let all of you give your thoughts on the incident.
Oh, I wanted to hear your
first.
thoughts first.
Oh, do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Go first, Marina.
That was the stupidest. Might have. It's very even with the 1 place grid penalty for impeding, in my opinion. The reason being is if you slow it down, I think I have the picture saved. Hold on. It's Senna all the way. If you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver. There was a gap there, and it's lap 1, turn 1. There's no reason he shouldn't have taken that gap. On the other hand, there's no reason Oscar should have known he was there besides knowing it's Max Verstappen.
so you're saying it's a racing incident?
I think it's a racing incident.
Yeah. I think it's a racing incident, too. It
Yeah.
absolutely is a racing incident.
The one
But-
that's even worse than that is the Valtteri Bottas one. That's a racing incident at its finest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
well, I will say if Oscar Piastri causing a collision was
size
a
of the gap.
penalty,
There's plenty of room there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you forget to see the next 5 seconds of that video where that magical blue Red Bull car decides to go a meter up to the right.
Well, I was listening.
move.
I was listening.
Does
Exactly.
he?
Yeah, he
touches
does.
him in the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, come on, it was Max's fault.
See,
It was Max's fault they crashed.
Yeah.
No doubt. But
He went into the corner
But
too
because
deep and then paid the price for it.
that's what I'm saying. Oscar, until Max was right there, had no idea he was there. I'm pretty sure.
it's a blind spot.
It's a blind spot. It's a tough deal. And that's why I think it's a racing incident, because had this been on any other lap, Oscar would have known he was there and they wouldn't have crashed. Because Oscar would have gone wide. He had plenty of room on the outside.
I mean, there's a reason why there's not much drama llama stuff about this, is because I think it is that exact opinion. It's lap 1. Max is going to race you hard. I mean, I'm firmly on the stand of like rubbing is racing. It's just hard in the Formula 1 aspect because you freaking poke that car, it's going to explode.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I actually love it. At this, like, meaning not the explosion, that's bad. But like touching wheels and stuff like that, that's sick. Like, I think racing incident and...
Yeah. There were two other things. The first was the fact that, again, with the British bias, the British commentators were talking about it, and they were like, honestly, they were talking about it after they said, honestly, I feel like because they also have a bit of the opinion that, like, Oscar is very strong, McLaren will be very strong next year. So they were like, honestly, it was kind of just a Max being like, my championship's over. I can't win the Constructors. Just say a little hello as, like, a preview to next year. And I'm like, guys are so dumb.
Why are we stretching it like
Max
that?
was pulling a K-Mag?
The other reason I do think that it's not being talked about is because Max made it a very, like, first, Oscar said this first, but Max made it a point to go and apologize because his intention was not to take Oscar Piastri out of contention for this race. His intention was to go for a gap that existed, and unfortunately it caused a collision. He got a penalty for it. It is what it is. But Oscar's the first to say, he says, Max immediately came over and apologized to me after the race and, like, basically said that. And Oscar was like, we're cool, because, again, Oscar doesn't get hot-headed. He's not emotional about it. He's very, I'd say, cutthroat.
What you're telling me is that the Fred Vassar hush money that he sent to Max saying, hey, you can knock out one of the McLarens tomorrow.
Can we talk about... yeah, I mean, literally, Max did more for Ferrari in this race than Ferrari did.
Come on, Leclerc's drive?
If Oscar Piastri had gone into turn 1 in P2, they would have been 1-2.
Oh, sure, yeah, but he didn't. And Leclerc...
And that kept Ferrari in it.
Well, yeah, it kept Ferrari in it, but, like, I mean, it required a monster drive from Leclerc to even consider them to be in it.
Yes and no, because he came up 11 positions on lap 1 because of all the incidents and just picking the right place to be.
Sure,
again, monster lap from Leclerc, and luck involved as well. But
you can't discount luck, but you can also be like, yeah, he got lucky.
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
absolutely.
that's like, that is, but unfortunately and fortunately, that is a factor of sports.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like certain moments in history, like the double doink, for example, when the Eagles played the Bears. Like, I mean, stupid stuff like that gave, you know, momentum to other people. So, like, that's, you know, just an example
just
of,
how
like,
it
was luck, but you got to factor in luck, and it worked out in his favor.
Yep.
Worked out for me in fantasy, too.
Oh, yeah. Fantasy champion over here.
That is true. Congratulations to Marina.
Anyways, let's talk about someone who is nowhere close to a champion. Sergio Perez. That collision with Valtteri Bottas, I also felt was a racing incident. There was nowhere for anybody to go. There was like 5 people in that corner. So that one there. But I also thought the fact that Sergio Perez crashed in that corner and then didn't make it any further was perfectly symbolic to the year he had.
Perfectly symbolic.
Like...
Ended on a high note,
right.
Sergio.
On a scooter back to the pit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Scooter went faster than he's driven all year.
That scooter has more points than he does.
Oh, I love that.
Golly.
But yeah, I thought that was perfectly symbolic of like...
Yep.
It's going to be the biggest offseason move, in my opinion. We're going to just randomly get a news notification. Sergio Perez out, and so-and-so is taking the seat.
I'm taking a pick for this Friday or next Friday.
Do you think so? You think it's going to be that early?
I think it's going to be early.
I think there's going to be deliberations.
You think so?
It's got to be, because the sponsors are going to, like...
Yeah.
It's the biggest problem. It's the sponsors. They're going to try and negotiate and be like, your guy sucks.
Well, I actually think that Red Bull has a bigger problem than the sponsors. Red Bull has 2 big problems, actually. And this kind of starts to go into kind of the constructors. But Red Bull has 2 main problems. The first is I don't think anyone in their junior driver lineup is strong enough to be in that Red Bull or mentally strong enough to be in that. Yuki Tsunoda is a great driver. If he and Max have a good car next year, there will be no fucks given on either side, and that's the problem. That's why Yuki can't come up, because he's too hot-headed. as of right now, in my opinion.
He would get too excited to be in that car.
Exactly.
We're saying
Liam.
Valtteri Bottas.
I was gonna say I keep on seeing that Liam Lawson's going in.
I want Valtteri Bottas in that car
Valtteri
so
would
bad.
be perfect.
Valtteri Bottas, he has no seat. He never had big beef with Max. Obviously, Mercedes and Red Bull fought for stuff, but they never had any big crashes that I can remember.
That would be
He's the perfect number 2.
Also, the Red Bull
he
store
probably-
has alluded to us.
Yep.
Did you see that? That's
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
Jason double fact checked it.
Yeah.
It might even still be there now.
I mean, could you
Yeah.
just imagine Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, and then you have Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen competing against each other for the championship?
Well, they're all with each
my-
other's old teammates. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, Lewis with Charles. Charles's old teammate is Carlos. Max's old teammate is Alex, who's Carlos's teammate. And then you would have maybe Bottas coming over to Red Bull. Like, that'd be so insane.
That'd be
Like,
really
the
cool.
spread of the grid is insane.
Quite literally, that would be the perfect driver to have in that seat.
Here's why I think it's at all possible. Because Isaac Hadjar lost the F2 championship. If he had won, it would have been Liam's seat with Isaac in the V-Carb.
Now Isaac has an
Guaranteed.
excuse to race.
Isaac has an
F2 again.
excuse to be an F2 again, and he has a backing in Red Bull to do it. He could stay another year.
Come on, Valtteri.
So-
Do the funny.
There's
funny-
still thing. I did hear Valtteri say that that wasn't a conversation he had or anything, and probably wasn't something that was going to happen. But I still think it'd be a great move. He's a great number 2.
Yeah, it would be
Someone
great
that
for
can
the
be
sport,
really
too.
consistent.
I mean, if you want somebody that's going to cause your team to have less damage, he only had 2 DNFs this year compared to Sergio who had 5.
Speaking of less damage,
I was gonna
Pierre
say.
Gasly finished the race the year with $0 in crash damage. First time it's ever happened.
Well done.
Alongside that, Oscar Piastri I want to say he's the first driver to ever finish every single racing lap of a season.
I think it's the
So,
fourth.
Fourth?
Yeah.
4th.
Yeah.
Alongside it's a big name.
Your boy's in there.
Alongside Max,
I think it's Schumacher.
Lewis might be in there.
Maybe Lewis.
Vettel,
Yeah, you know what? I think it was Vettel. Yeah.
Max, Vettel, Oscar, and Schumacher is 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
that's
it's
some
that.
elite
I think
company
that's
to be
the
a part
list.
of.
I don't think Lewis is in that list because Lewis has had championships with Max and Nico, so kind of tough.
Yeah.
But
Max
yeah,
will do
like I
that to
said,
you.
There is a great honor in just being able to keep your nose clean throughout an entire year.
yeah.
So-
I mean, and also I do a point to that is both. I mean, I guess Seb's is maybe a little different, but both the year that they particularly talk about with Schumacher, the year that he did it, and the year that Max did it, they were fighting at the front, rarely having much competition. It's easy to not get in an accident and finish every race as long as you have a reliable car when you're at the front consistently.
Yeah.
Oscar had several races where he ended up towards the back. He was able to fight through. He scored points this weekend. So, you know, props to him. I think it was a spectacular
100%.
season from
Yep.
Oscar Piastri. With that said, McLaren are World Constructors champions.
Yes, they are. Big time congrats.
Mr. Ferrari, not too happy about that one, are you?
Yeah, I mean, Steven did call it, and Ferrari had a chance until the last lap, really.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
not
That's all you can ask for.
disappointed with how the season ended up going. Just hoping Lewis really has it, and we keep up into next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say though, I hate that the Constructors has lost like its zing a bit.
Yeah, because nobody really cares.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem.
Teams care though. That's
The teams care. The
Yeah.
teams care, but I think the fans are much more
It's about the drive. I
They're-
mean, they have
it's
more
because-
association with the driver
exactly
than they care
more
with the
association with
team.
the because there's a lot of people who are Max Verstappen fans,
Yeah.
but their favorite team is Ferrari.
I mean, there are
Or
dorks.
Lewis Hamilton
like,
fans, their favorite team is McLaren. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I think that obviously there are people that are fans of Lando and McLaren or Oscar and McLaren or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a lot more people that are very big fans of a driver than they are a team. Like to be quite frank with you, if Max Verstappen left Red Bull today, I would too. I'm not a Red Bull fan. I'm a Max Verstappen fan. So
Yeah.
I think there's an element of that. There's also an element of like they should have. If they hadn't won this, people would be destroying McLaren right now in the
Yeah.
media because they had the fastest car since Miami, arguably,
Yeah.
and they still gave up a lot of wins to other people. I
Yeah.
mean, Miami
Yeah.
was Lando's first. He had 4 wins this year, and Oscar had 1, right? 1
No,
or 2?
he had like 2
Two?
or 3, I thought.
3? No, he had 2. He won in Hungary,
It's at least 2.
so 2. I think he had 2 wins this year. So that's 6 wins in Miami was race 6, right?
Miami, yeah, it sounds about right.
6. So if Miami's race 6, then that was 18 races. They got 6 wins with the fastest car pretty much every weekend.
Yeah.
So they gave up a lot of points.
Oh, you do have 2.
I think there's also like a hidden fact of like it doesn't matter so much or it doesn't resonate as well when Red Bull wins the Constructors Championship because we're in a sport of automakers.
Yeah.
And you have Ferrari. People have a lot of association with Ferrari, McLaren because they love McLaren and Ferrari street cars.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's a little bit more of not incentive, I guess you could say, but I feel like there's a little bit more of an emotional attachment when you see Ferrari Constructors Champions. Like, the Ferrari brand, like the car, like, stuff like that. Red Bull, it's like, the can?
The energy drink does it again.
The drink.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit more of an attachment there. That's why I think that's why I think it was actually pretty cool. It was between McLaren and Ferrari.
I do. I think it was kind of going back to the roots of the sport, kind of between McLaren and Ferrari. On that point, though, Charles was extremely upset, obviously, but I think also important, like Carlos. What surprised me was the fact that Carlos wasn't as upset. He just kind of seemed like happy to be on the podium and kind of finish on a high note.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see, even if McLaren, because McLaren would have still run the Constructors if they were just if Lando's gotten second and they had gone and Ferrari had gotten 1 and 3. So I would have loved to see like Carlos, Lando, Charles.
Yeah.
I will say that one of the cool things that I saw this week was that Carlos's first podium with Ferrari was with Lando, and his last podium with Ferrari was also with Lando.
That's awesome.
Also, Carlando and the relationship with Charles and Carlos, both kind of like both on the podium together, kind of like end of an era. With that, with Zhou Guanyu did donuts and nobody they didn't show it on the broadcast.
I was gonna say I didn't know that.
Is that real?
He did donuts.
That's pretty cool.
They also did like a guard of honor or whatever you want to call it. People like kind of lined the paddock for them on their way into the garage for their final race. What could be their final race in the sport for both of them. Kevin Magnussen's wife got on the radio and kind of did like a goodbye to the sport kind of thing, and Franco Colapinto on the formation. It was almost as if he knew he wasn't going to finish the race. Before the formation lap, he was kind of teary. I don't want to say teary-eyed because it just is. You just hear it, but it just kind of seemed like he was already sad about it and kind of giving his goodbyes and thanking the team for everything this season. So a lot of goodbyes.
Lewis did donuts. I know that.
I was going to say most important goodbye though. Lewis Hamilton leaving Mercedes. The one thing that bothered me about that goodbye. I know he's a 7-time world champion. I know he won 6 of those with Mercedes. However, the fact that you have Lewis Hamilton leaving Mercedes, not even leaving the sport, doing donuts on the main straight, but you don't have Max, the 2024 world champion, on the main straight to do a final interview or whatever, kind of blows my mind. Yeah. I get it. He had his moments. He had his interview. He had his race win. But also, like, I feel like it was missing, like, a throw it all back together. Your 2024 world champion kind of got lost in the thing.
Right.
And the fact there was so much focus, especially on Sky Sports, on Lewis, kind of lost the touch for McLaren and the drivers and the constructors as well.
Doesn't Max have some say in that, though? I feel like he could have been actively involved. Like,
he could have been like, I don't want it. But I don't know.
But no, I agree. You're absolutely right. That's the champion right there.
Yeah.
That's the 4-time champion.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would have been cool actually to have seen maybe him and like Lewis and maybe even Lando, all three of them doing donuts on the straight.
Wasn't that been a thing before they did like a 3-way burnout?
It was Fernando, Lewis.
It was supposed to be Fernando's last race.
Seb, I think.
Yeah, Fernando, Lewis, and Seb.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Lewis.
Supposed to be Lewis. Did you see the parallels between Lewis's last race?
I
with
did
McLaren
see that.
And his
that
last
was
race for
crazy.
Mercedes.
I can't remember
So
all
many
of them.
parallels.
It was crazy.
The best parallel for me, and again, perfectly symbolic, is the fact that Sergio Perez retired in the first few laps in both of those Grand Prix. Like,
perfectly, consistently inconsistent.
Consistently inconsistent, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Final thoughts. final comments on
What
was.
a season.
Indeed.
What a season. I think for a lot of people, and especially myself, who was a Debbie Downer going into the season, thinking we were going to have a repeat of 2023, I couldn't be more humbled. All I can ask for is what we have going on in these last, dozen races continues into next year.
Absolutely.
I'm a big proponent. I hate dominance, so I don't want to see. Hell, I don't even want to see Charles Leclerc, let's say, winning 6 races in a row to start the season or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, I know somebody here would like to see that, but I understand it. I respect it, but I loved how competitive the season was in the final.
Really well.
Even Lando winning this last race, it kind of surprised me a little bit. I really thought Max was going to go on a tear, and he kind of did these last couple races, but and again, he potentially could have. He got spun out in the first lap. But, yeah, God, this might have been one of the best seasons of Formula One ever.
Absolutely.
I mean,
It's
potentially,
pretty up there with 2021 for me as
very
the
much,
best,
the
best season
I
ever witnessed.
when a champion hadn't been
sure.
crowned and there was still 3 races left to go, and we could, or maybe 4, whatever it was that was left, and there was still a potential battle for the championship.
Yeah.
That to me promotes such a great season.
Yeah, I mean, until Brazil,
Yeah.
it was completely open. I mean, one win with a DNF from Max or something in a race like Brazil that was
Very much
totally
have
very
happened,
much could have
yeah.
happened.
Very much could have happened.
You know, you flip it all the way. I mean, you completely turn the championship and the drivers on its head.
Yeah.
So many ups and downs for so many people this year.
Yep.
A lot of people ending on an up, a lot of people ending on a down.
A lot of awesome
Haas
stories.
had a great. I mean, Nico had a great qualifying. Then drops off during the race. They end up 7th. But on the other hand, Alpine finished 6th. They started the year so unbelievably horribly. And we're able to pull off something that they can be proud of. And I was talking to my dad about this yesterday. I think almost every team on the grid has something they can come out of the season being proud of.
Oh, 100%.
Every team on the grid had a race, had something where they could say, I'm proud of this. I'm proud of...
Yeah, I was going to say Salbert.
Sauber got a point. They
no,
got a point.
Yeah, but
no,
that's
come
also
on.
insane.
Hey, Valtteri had a heck of a
They,
race.
I think I would
Valtteri-
love to say I fully agree with you, but
Almost
come on,
every
Sauber.
team. Sauber maybe is the exception.
Yeah.
But I
Every
mean,
team had their
Yeah.
moments.
Well, even
every team
one-
had their
yeah.
moments.
Yeah.
Every team had their moments. Williams had some great qualifying.
Had some
Had
great
some great
crashes.
finishes. V-Carb, even if they didn't have the best of seasons
They had to
on
fire a
track,
driver.
they-
They had to fire Daniel Ricciardo.
right?
Yeah.
But you also brought back Daniel Ricciardo to the sport, and you had some great moments. I think on and off track
They could
as
say
a
at
whole.
least we tried.
Yup.
I think on and off track.
We
as
done
a
did
whole,
it.
Obviously, there are going to be teams. Every team is going to go back and think, where did we go wrong? What happened?
Aston Martin.
What can we
Mhm.
improve on?
Williams?
I would tell you what, too.
But
DOS is about to be crazy.
Oh my God, Drive to Survive.
I hope they throw in the George stuff.
I don't
Yes.
think Drive to
Awesome.
Survive is going to be as good as people think it is.
Because
But
Max
we'll
is not going to be
definitely talk about.
involved.
Well, there's that, but yeah, because I feel like it's so wrong for them to put in stuff with George, like George and Max beef, when they're not going to interview Max because Max doesn't want to be involved.
That's true. That's true.
I will say,
I don't think it's just that. I just think that Drive to Survive is such an... Until they prove me otherwise, I will assume that it's going to be fake drama rather than real drama we had all
That's
season
fair.
long.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So,
I will say, McLaren finished the season with 666
I noticed that.
points.
I'm like,
666. I'm
luck.
not a religious man, but that
Li-
might be a bad omen.
listen, I think the fact that Red Bull are already complaining about the fact that their wind tunnel and simulation don't match
oh, boy.
should give McLaren a lot of faith for one of the first times
Oh, most certainly.
this year.
Yeah, man.
I can also say that I do not have a prediction because the season is over.
it.
Abu Dhabi is over.
Mm-hmm.
That is a wrap on 2024. With that said, your quote of the day is one we've done many a time before. I'm gonna see if
Oh,
you know your
man.
media. Who said "Simply Lovely" this weekend?
If it ain't Max,
It's
I
not
think
Max
we're doing it
Verstappen.
again.
Is it,
it'd be funny if it was George
was
Russell.
it Horner?
Nope.
No.
Was it Kelly?
No, it wasn't somebody in the Red Bull camp.
Oh.
That's why. I
Oh,
think it's funny.
shoot.
Was it Lando?
No. You're close though. You're getting warmer.
Zach?
Yep.
Zach Brown?
Wow.
Yes.
There you
That's
go.
goes
awesome.
Zach.
That's funny.
He would say that.
All right, I'm not that mad
Honestly-
about that pick. That was pretty
Honestly,
funny.
here's the thing. what gets me going about that one, obviously I don't like that he said it. What's hilarious to me is the fact that he said that just means that Max Verstappen lives rent free in his head.
Oh,
and that's fine for me. That works for me. He lives rent free in my head too. So
no, probably angered Christian a lot.
That sounds like a Christian problem.
Indeed.
What's so funny is Christian and Toto are still like the rivals, but
Yeah.
they're not anymore really.
No.
Anyways, with that, that's a wrap on 2024. That's a wrap on Abu Dhabi. But we'll be back next week to recap the season in its entirety. I don't know how we're going to do it with
we're not
so
done.
many things
Don't pump those
going
brakes
on.
yet.
Don't pump the brakes yet. We will be back next week, Monday at 11:30 Eastern Time. In the meantime, check out our socials at Lights Out Latest for Tech Tuesday, Wag Wednesday, Throwback Thursday, Fun Fact Friday, and the occasional man on the street. Bye, guys.
Rock on.
Peace.